Welcome, everyone, and hello. Thank you so much for attending this year's annual WriteHive conference. This year is packed with a ton of great sessions for writers, writing professionals, the publishing industry, just anyone who's interested in the field of writing. WriteHive is just a wonderful organization, and it's so great that we can always have this virtual online conference that is free to anybody who's wanting to learn about the organization. To start us off, if it's your first time here, so glad to have you guys attending. Let me tell you a little bit about our host organization so that people, right before we jump into allowing all the participants to introduce themselves. So WriteHive is a nonprofit organization serving the writing community with free and inclusive resources. They always have lots of events, wonderful programming, connections, and so much more. This annual conference brings you our session, which is called Breaking into the Serialized Fiction World. And if you like content similar to this, I would highly recommend that you check out Using Web Serial Story Platforms to Develop Your Writing from the 2022 WriteHive Conference. You can search it on YouTube, it'll be there. Or you could also search One Chapter at a Time, Serialization in Fiction, which is a panel from the 2021 WriteHive Conference. So lots of wonderful free resources available there that you can check out. So enough with the blurbs. Let's jump in and meet our wonderful panelists. We have Rachanee Lumayno, Kia Leep, and Joyce Chng. So, Kia, why don't you start with your introduction?
Hi, so I am a recent serialized author. I've been serializing only for 4 months currently, although I had a brief stint in the traditional publishing world before that, and I planned on serializing for over a year before I finally committed to it. So it was a conscious decision and something that I took very seriously before I jumped into it. So my series that's currently being serialized right now is called Glass Cannon, and it is being serialized on the platform Royal Road.
Nice. Wonderful. Joyce?
Hi, I'm Joyce Chng. I'm from Singapore, and I write basically like science fiction, young adult fiction, middle grade picture books, etc. So my first serialized fiction is Oyster Pearls and Magic, and I think I started it in 2007. That's a long time ago. So I was really one of those who started quite early, and I've since posted stories on Wattpad, and I think there's another one called Reddish. So that's where I put my serialized fiction, as well as my Patreon as well.
It's wonderful. Welcome. Rashidi?
Cool. Hi, I'm Rachanee Lumayno. I write YA fantasy. My first book, Era of Amber and Fire, is the one I'm currently serializing. Kia, I'm in good company. I just started 2 months ago, so we're all in that still trying to navigate it boat together. And I'm on Royal Road and Scribble Hub.
Nice. I'm definitely gonna have to check out those platforms. Wonderful. So I'm gonna jump right in and ask our first question for the group. What made each of you choose serialized fiction for the release of your current story? So, Rashani, I'll start with you.
Sure. This is going to sound really weird because so Amber and Fire is the first in a 7-book series, and book 5 is coming out this month in April, and I actually just completed book 6. So it's probably like, why are you serializing something when it's already been published? I'm self-published, by the way. I do a lot of audiobook narration, and I noticed that a lot of auditions I was getting were for serialized novels that they're like, oh, it's not completed yet, but we're looking for narrators. And I'm like, wow, because if I'm getting these auditions, it means they've already been picked up by a publisher. So I'm like, people are paying attention. What are these platforms? So I'm like, okay, I would like traction on my books too. Let's look into this. And so that's why I started serializing.
Wonderful. Awesome. Kia?
It's funny that you mentioned that because that actually did happen to me in the last couple of months. I was approached by Podium to turn my serialized book into an audiobook. So it does happen. Yeah. And I wasn't expecting it either. I just figured I would put my books out. This was a great way to gain a following. And from there, then when I eventually packaged the books up and I would, sell them as ebooks, I figured at least I wouldn't be publishing into a vacuum. I'd have people that would follow me and be interested in reading my books in that form. So I wasn't even expecting anything like that to happen, but it is a really good way to get exposure. And there's publishing houses that are paying attention to that for sure.
Awesome. Joyce?
Well, for me, it's like when I started writing in for real in 2007 because I just quit teaching, so I was like looking around for publishing platforms and how do I need to get my stories to readers, and it's like I'm considered a hybrid, so it's like I'm a trad pub as well as south pub, so I straddle in between. But when I first started writing oysters, pearls, and magic, I was going, how am I going to publish something that is not sellable, cannot be marketed to the general public, to people. So I decided to join. What I saw were people like posting their stories chapter by chapter on their websites. So I started creating that particular website for this serial. I got it's a sci-fi serial, science fantasy called Oysters, Pearls, and Magic, and I started from there. So yeah, it's just trying to get my stories out, and I felt getting readers to read chapter by chapter was more immediate, and they can get like fixed like every week or something. Yeah.
That's so awesome. The idea of releasing something chapter by chapter feels so terrifying for me. Because I'm relatively new. I started writing my first novel in 2017, and it was like I don't even know the idea. I don't know where it's going to go chapter by chapter. And from the first draft to where it's at now, like you feel like you have to have such a confidence in the storyline and what you're putting out. So kudos to all of you for being willing to put your books out and your stories out chapter by chapter like that. But I can understand the desire to gain the following and the gain the traction that way. So kind of along that same lines, what are your preferred platforms for serialized fiction? I know you guys have mentioned a few of them, but Joyce, what was your preferred platform or is your preferred platforms for your fiction?
At the moment, I'm using like Wattpad. It's easy, accessible, and it's quite easy. I mean, to just post chapter by chapter. And another one is my Patreon.
Your Patreon.
Yeah, so it's like people who subscribe my patrons can get to read new chapters like ahead before time or something. So these two are my go-to at the moment. I used to use Radish, but I stopped using. That's kind of like my interest kind of died out for that too as well. Yeah.
Rachanee?
Sure thing. Royal Road for me, and also Scribble Hub because I am in fantasy. Royal Road was the one that kept coming up. Although since I'm YA, I know they veer more towards like lit RPG and stuff. So I don't have a ton of followers because I'm not quite in the vein of like what would really blow up. And Scribble Hub's fun. Like I think people on there are just like, whatever, I want to read something. And so like I have been gaining some followers on that, just slowly but surely. I did look into Wattpad. I think I might be too late to the game. It sounds like it's kind of saturated. So for me, I did a ton of research before I even put stuff out there because I was like, I don't want to put it out there and then just be like, oh, no one's reading it, you know?
Right. Kia?
It's funny, I'm on the same platforms you're on, Rachanee. So I'm also on Royal Road, and recently I also am cross-posting to Scribble Hub as well. I am writing lit RPG isekai, so that is the predominant genre on Royal Road. So I knew that when I was originally writing the story, I knew it was going to be isekai, and I also knew that Royal Road was kind of like the place to go for that. So that was why I focused on Royal Road, as I knew that's where the audience was. However, my stories also feature queer characters and a gay protagonist, and that's not as popular on Royal Road. But it is popular on Scribble and so it's interesting because they're kind of two not completely separate Venn diagrams. There is like a sliver of overlap there between people who really want the isekai lit RPG and also want the queer representation. So I kind of have tried double dipping in both of those, and I've had enormously more success on Royal Road than Scribble Hub. And I think it's due to the ways you're able to market yourself on the different platforms. Scribble Hub is more of you put it out there and then you hope somebody sees it when it's on the recently updated, because on the front page it will show like which stories have just had a chapter that's been posted, and then as more people post chapters it pushes your title off the list. So that's a good way to get new viewers for as long as you're on the page. And this is kind of true for all serialization. The faster and the more often you update, the more likely people are going to see your story as a result. I only post 3 times a week, so I have to rely on somebody happening to see when I update a chapter, one of those 3 times a week, for them to discover me on Scribble Hub. With Royal Road, there's a couple different avenues that you can get readers. There's one called Rising Stars, which is basically if you gain a lot of momentum, it pushes you onto this list of the top 50 growing stories at any given time. And so people will see that list and be like, oh, what's this? And they'll check it out, and you can gain a lot of people following you that way. Or there's also ways that you can pay for advertising on the site. It's like $50 to put up an ad, and it will just appear on people's stories, and it's just like Amazon or Facebook based on impressions. So I've tried 1 or 2 ads and had some success with that, and I made it onto Rising Stars, and that also helped too. And so I've had pretty good success on Royal Road, but Scribble Hub has been, even though I think it might be a better audience for my book, it's been a lot harder to be discovered on that side, I found. I don't know, Rachanee, what your experience has been, but that's been my experience.
I'm just like caught there. Perfect. So it seems like it's interesting that you guys are on the same platforms. But then Wattpad seems clearly like the older version of the serialization. But are they all, it sounds like every platform tries to tailor itself to a particular genre of writing, or is that, am I on the right track with that, or is it, because I've never heard of either Royal Roads or the other one. So is that accurate to say that there are going to be serialized platforms that are kind of geared towards certain genres? They are.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't know that they necessarily try to like specifically corner a niche. It's just like
Oh,
naturally happens
naturally happen.
that readers will gather in certain areas, and then that just becomes like the hub for that specific genre or trope or, demographic.
Awesome. Great. So then, are there any changes that you guys feel you need to make to your writing style in order to adapt to the serialized format? So Kia, why don't you go ahead and jump off on that one?
That's a great question. And you kind of touched on something earlier as well, where you're saying you were afraid that, like, publishing 1 chapter at a time would be kind of a scary thing. And I'd say every author does it differently. Some authors will post the chapter as they write them, and they literally are just like, as soon as they finish the chapter, go. It's like online. I can't operate that way. So I write a backlog. I'll have finished the whole book at least. If not the series, at least the book will be done. And I'll have read through it and edited it. And I'll have even had my friends read it too, just because I'm very self-conscious about putting something out there that might be terrible. And I try to catch like typos and stuff too. So it's not like first draft. And having that backlog also is good for something that Joyce mentioned earlier, which is having a Patreon. And if you can post for free on Royal Road or Scribble Hub or wherever you post, up through chapter 10, but you have up through chapter 25 or 30 on your Patreon, and you're like, you can read for free as it comes out, or if you want to pay $10, you can go to Patreon. Then that's a good way to start to make some income off of these free stories. So for me personally, I don't tailor too much because I intentionally try to have a complete story before I start posting. But there are some elements like I make things a little bit more cliffhangery at the end of chapters because I want someone to come back the next day to keep reading. If everything gets tied up in a neat, nice bow at the end of every chapter, then people have the potential to lose interest. So I dangle some element of intrigue at the end of each chapter, even if it's not like a literal cliffhanger.
Joyce?
Well, for me, it's like when my writing style changes for serialized fiction. I mean, you get to experiment. I mean, some chapters are just poems for me, like just poems or recipes as well. And it's like here, I cannot post immediately. I need to have a complete book before I decide to like post a story for chapter because I can't get idea of like send. It's just not my style as well. But I feel that from my writing style changes if I start to I write for serialized stories. Like my chapters can be short, sometimes short sentences, sometimes poems. They are snappy, they are cliffhangers. So people get to question why, and I want to read more as well. But it's kind of different from my longer form writing, because longer form writing seems to be more prose, more prose and longer prose. So it's fast, quick versus slow and long. Yeah.
Awesome. Rachanee, what about you?
It sounds like we all like to just write ahead and have it ready to go. And for me, because Heir of Amber and Fire's already been out for a couple of years, like it's already edited. I already know it's fine. So I just have to copy paste. But the funniest thing is, and I don't know if you guys feel like this when you're doing it, thank goodness for the schedule feature, because to me, it feels like social media. And I go through waves with social media where I'm like, I want to post and I have content, blah, blah. And then I just like flatline and I don't do anything. And so I think like, and I'm so close, like I'm like 3 chapters away from finishing this book right now on these platforms. And I'm just like, even just scheduling it is such a freaking pain for me. And so I have to like motivate myself to like schedule it, which is so weird, but it feels like social media to me. And I think that's what I have problems with. So it's not adjusting my writing style, it's adjusting my attitude about posting.
I have to
That's
like
it.
set aside several hours, like one day, one weekend day, like every couple of months, just to sit down and be like, okay, I'm going to schedule out all the chapters in this book because
Right?
it takes a while.
Right? Yeah. It's just, I don't know what it is. Like, you know, you have the content. It's just putting it out there for some reason is a pain.
Can be so monotonous too. Like the fun part is already done. You wrote it, and now it's just like, okay, open a new chapter, paste in the text, pick the date and time, next chapter. It's just over and over and over.
Yep. Yep.
It's crazy. So it's like, it clearly seems like you guys at least have the backlog, you've written it. It's people aren't getting, my assumption when I first kind of considered like Wattpad, that they're very raw writings, and that they're all kind of like these rough first draft that people are just posting out there for the world to see, like, which is terrifying in and of itself. But as the platforms develop, it seems like the writers are getting better, the content is getting better, the readers are demanding more. So you guys are definitely, everybody is putting in the real effort to post and publish the most polished versions of your work that you would be ready to share. So kind of along that lines, what do you think would be the common pitfalls in making a serialized work? Right. So Rashidi, why don't I start with you?
This is going to sound really funny coming from me because I'm a total pantser, but I think if you're going to serialize, you sort of have to plan ahead. Because I know, like, even now when I just finished the first draft of this latest book, I was like, oh, I need to go back and add in chapters to explain things, which you don't have that luxury if you're putting it out there right away. You know, I can do that because it's private right now, but if I was putting it out there on a, rolling basis, I'd be like, oh crap, people are going to notice that I didn't explain that for a whole chapter. So I think you do sort of have to be good about at least outline, and it also seems like word count, like most of my books fall around 80,000, but like people like long books. I don't know if I can do 100K at this point, that's just not in me. So I think that's also part of the planning process, maybe. But for those of you who write longer, I'm sure you have better insight on that than me.
Joyce, what are common pitfalls?
Well, I agree in that though. I'm not a 100K person. 30K, 40K is my comfortable zone. Even my my traditional published stuff is like around 40 to 30K. I can't write 100K. Sorry. I do not have the energy to write. I have a household to run. I have other lives to lead. So I can't do a lot of things at the same time. What my the pitfalls are about serialized fiction, thinking readers will like your stories right away, like immediately. Ding, you'll get instant success and people will like it now. Like, And also another one, the pitfall is following tropes and trends. So for a long time, it had been like paranormal romance, and now it's the current one is romance fantasy, romance fantasy. So it's like the trends are going on, but I can't. For me, is I kind of buck the trend and I stick to my own guns. Like if I'm writing an urban fantasy, it's just urban fantasy. It just I will not follow other trends. I will just stick to it because I just cannot deal with so many things at one time. I just need to focus. Yeah.
So, Kia?
I really agree with that last point, Joyce. I've seen it repeated a lot especially on Royal Road in relation to writing serialized stories, that you should write to trope, and it's really important to make sure to hit all of the tropes. And I think there's some truth to that, in that there are certain tropes that will absolutely get readers to read your book. You could put, there was only one bed in your synopsis, and there will be readers out there that are like, that's my jam, that's the book I want to read. So sometimes the tropes help you if there's people specifically looking for that. But also I think a pitfall might be trying to emulate, like you said, the trends, because if you're going to be, if your story ends up just being a knockoff of what's popular, people are going to go to what's popular, not the knockoff of what's popular. Versus if you find your niche, if you find something fresh, a new twist on what they've already seen, then that's now going to be, the new trend if it really takes off, and then you'll be the one that people will go to instead of the knockoff version of that. So I think there's something to be said about, even if you aren't hitting all of the tropes, even if you're not writing to market, basically, if you find your niche, if you find your audience, then it's okay if you diverge from that, because they're looking for what you're writing. And so you just need to find the people who want what you write, and then you will have people that will follow you to other books as well. And let's see, I feel like I got distracted from what the actual question was, because I was just like, yeah, Joyce, you're totally right. Yeah. And then also something that Rachanee said earlier too about the length. So I think the longer the better. It definitely helps you, just because there's some people who won't even like try a story if it's below a certain length. They want to see there's a lot of content because they like desperately want to like binge something. They want this to be the thing they read for the next like 3 weeks. So having longer series can help. And Rachanee, you said that you write like 80,000 words and that's it, but you have 6 books. So if you line up all those 80,000 words back to back to back to back, that adds up to quite a bit. So it's okay if your individual book is shorter, as long as, overall, like they still get like a lot of content to follow through and engage them. So I guess, I don't even know if I have like a specific common pitfall, because I think there's ways you can tackle all of these. You can turn a short book into a long series. You can write to trope or find your specific niche. I think really ultimately what it comes down to, the only pitfall is not writing an engaging story that brings back readers, I think, at the end of the day. Even if your story is riddled with grammar errors, but it is like exactly what the people wanted, you know, they will come back and they'll be willing to overlook like the lower quality content if it's hitting exactly what they want. So I think ultimately it's finding that readership and making sure that you're giving them something that they want to see and they want more of at the end of each chapter.
Awesome. Great. So our next question is, what is the life cycle of a serialized work? And then what do you do after you've completed a full book? So Joyce, why don't I start with you?
Okay, I think it's kind of like similar to writing a book. Like you have cover, you're writing, then you're publishing the chapters, and after that, editing them again, and collating them into a proper book. It's either you self-pub or you will try your luck and submit it to a publisher who's willing to take a reprint, because serialized fiction is considered a reprints if you want to find a proper publisher. So yeah, it's like a book, but same but different. Like serialized fiction is a book, but it's not a book in a way. So it's like similar life cycle. Yeah, to me.
Rashidi. Rashidi?
I was gonna say, I think Joyce is really the only one who can answer that, since the rest of us are pretty still new to it. I mean, hopefully it'll have traction. I don't know. I'll tell you in a couple weeks. But I mean, you know, it's funny though. One thing I do with it is I've been spacing it out more to kind of, like in the beginning, I was doing like the 3 chapters a week thing because I have the content, and then I was just kind of drawing it out, and I'll put notes in there every so often where I'm like, hey, if you want to read the full thing, guess what? It's $2.99 on Amazon. You don't have to wait. So I can't do that as much now that I'm getting close to the end. But yeah, hopefully I will say I did see a little bit of organic sales when I started doing that. Not a ton, so that's been helpful. But I'm hoping to just put it out there, and then maybe once I say, complete, when you put that tag on there, that people will be like, okay, cool, I'll actually read the whole thing. Because right now you can see the numbers, especially, I'm sure Kia can talk to this too, on Scribble Hub. It'll tell you how many people are following, but then it'll also tell you where they are in your book. And so even if I have, better numbers than Royal Road, I can still tell that you guys are still on chapter 1 or 2, even though chapter 30 has already been published. So I'm just waiting. I think once I say complete, then they'll hopefully catch up.
Awesome. Kia?
I know that pain. Like, you're like, oh, sweet, I got all these new readers. And then you look at it, it's like chapter 1, chapter 1, chapter 1. I'm like, keep reading. So the life cycle, I've planned this out, what it's going to look like for my book. When I originally decided to publish on Royal Road, I had 3 books already written and edited and ready to go. So I set up a Patreon at the same time. So I had the Patreon launch at the same time that the book launched. And I always have a backlog of 15 chapters on the Patreon that people can access at any given time. And I've put goals in the Patreon as well. That's like, if this many people sign up, then I'll increase that to 20 extra chapters. And if more people sign up, then they'll get 30 extra chapters. So it's also trying to encourage people to like invite their friends to also follow me on Patreon. I've had like middling success. It's definitely not enough to quit my day job, but it pays for the cover art. And as Joyce said, that's kind of similar no matter where you go. You gotta get cover art, you got to edit your book, and then you put it out there. And so that's what I did for Royal Road. And it was already edited, and I already had commissioned cover art for it as well. And then I had the Patreon set up. And so my current plan is that once the series finishes running through Royal Road, then I'll do something that's called stubbing, which means you take it off of Royal Road and you package it together and you put it on Amazon as an ebook. So and then ideally the hope is that you kind of also get like new readers who aren't on Royal Road, and so now that it's on Amazon, it'll be people who didn't know that existed before will stumble upon it. And same if you put it in KU. These are all very different readerships. There's some people that read across all of these platforms, but there are some people that will only read books that are in KU, and some people who will only listen to audiobooks, and some people who will only read on Royal Road because it's free. So in trying to move from Royal Road and Patreon to eventually putting it on Amazon and having an ebook, audiobook, and putting it on KU. I'm hoping to open it up to different markets who didn't see it earlier.
That sounds so complicated. It's like, but it really does kind of tie into one of our final questions for the panel, which is how does marketing affect a serialized fiction release? So, and then along the lines of that, what would you guys say are effective ways that you've used to promote your chapter releases? So, Kia, why don't you're kind of on that topic, so I'm gonna let you finish it off.
Sure. All right. So I mentioned before that there's ways you can buy ads on Royal Road. And so I have done that with Royal Road to get more readership, and it's been pretty effective actually. And since I have a Patreon, I'm hoping that some of the readership and some of the people that end up following me also move over to Patreon, so it ends up paying for itself. And I've never spent more on ads than I make on Patreon. So I'm very conscious about not just trying to like funnel a bunch of money into this ether. So that's a very effective way. And I mentioned before too, there's different ways that your book can gain visibility on the site, such as the Rising Stars and recently updated. And there's also lists like Popular This Week. Those are all effective ways to find people, get people to find your book. And one more thing that I haven't mentioned is something called shout swaps. And so basically it's you approach other authors on the platform and you say, hey, would you like to shout out my book if I shout out your book? And a lot of them will say yes. And so you basically at the beginning of your chapter for whatever day do you decide, you put a link in a blurb to their book in your pre-chapter notes, and they do the same. And there's actually a way on Royal Road to track where clicks came from in order to get to your page. So you can actually see if somebody clicked on a link that was on someone else's chapter in order to come and find your thing. So you can actually gauge like how effective that is too. And it can, if you do enough of it, it can snowball and be a pretty effective strategy to get new eyes on your book. So that's what I've currently been using. There's other stuff too, like you can post to Reddit, social media, tell your friends on Discord or whatever. Those have not been as effective, I've found. But so far, just staying like within the platform's ways of advertising and trying to get readers that are already there to discover you has worked for me at least.
Joyce?
For me, it's just I feel that many factors kind of converge. First, it's important to get a writers network, as in a support group where you help other writers and writers help you, and forming like I say a small not union but collective will help help one another in this business. And for me, it's announcing on social media, catchy visuals as well. I don't necessarily use ads for me. So I just pray luck, a lot of luck to help with marketing as well. But I think helping having other writers help you and you help other writers also is a good effective way to help in a way boost your book, because it's a very competitive, not I can't say competitive business, but it's like everyone is trying to become visible. So let's help one another to help your book or everyone's books. It helps. Yeah. That's my
Rachanee.
Gosh, you guys have such great ideas already. Like I'm like, oh, right, I should write these all down. It's funny because like Kia was saying, the readerships are so different on like Amazon versus whatever. I've been focusing more on getting people off the platform, to be honest. I do know if you participate in the forums, and I've yet to figure this out because I'm not that tech savvy, apparently you can put the links to your books in your signature. So if you're talking to other authors in the forum, that's like a way of internally like advertising. I just have to figure out how to do it because I don't know. But I see it in the forums all the time. I'm like, look at all these pretty covers. And people have talked about it. And I'm like, okay, obviously there's a way to do this. So yes, figure out your tech and do that. And then I know also both on Scribble Hub and Royal Road, I'm not sure about Wattpad. Like you were saying, Kia, you can do pre-notes, you can do after notes. Every couple chapters, I will put a note at the end, it's like, hey, thank you for reading this. Here's a link to my newsletter. Here's a link to my Discord. Here's a link to the rest of the series. So it's taking them off the platform. I'm like, please go sign up for the newsletter because then we can chat more, you know, that sort of thing. So that's where my big focus is. But pro tip, if you do a Patreon, which I have one, not a lot of people on it, make sure if you are going to do a Patreon that you have it ready to go, like study other people's Patreons, figure out what you want your tiers to be. I had a Patreon for something completely different and then switched over to writing. And it was like, oh my gosh, what a nightmare, because you just lose people who are like, what are you doing? What's going on? So if you want to do that kind of thing, Patreon, or I think what is the other one? Ko-fi, this is the tip jar thing, have it ready to go study other people's thing and get it set up before you jump on these platforms and advertise yourself on Patreon and all that stuff.
So
Yeah, I
great.
agree. I think being prepared is very helpful in your success. There are absolutely people who will just write by the seat of their pants and post as they go and only make a Patreon when people request it. And those are the lucky few. I think for the rest of us, it has to be more measured and more planned, you know, and just having all of your ducks in a row makes your life easier as well.
Even if
As
you
a
have the ducks in a row, like even if you have the
go
ducks
ahead.
in a row, it may not work as well. It's like I think for me, I feel that luck plays an important part in getting a serial to work. I mean, people will read, but to reach like, okay, using bicular do you know the bicular phase
Yeah.
where
Yeah,
they
big
were
loves.
they hyped up the thing and the book became very popular? That
Uh-huh.
is very rare. I mean, it's like once in a lifetime thing. So we all wish to have that moment, but most of the time we just have to rely on our own brains and our own wits too, and luck as well. So yeah, I mean, sometimes even if we plan a lot, if we have Patreon, coffee, whatever, our tip jar, it may not work as well. I mean, I have serials die on me. I mean, people just lose interest. And nobody will talk it up as well on social media. So you're the only one going, yeah, read my stuff. But it's like, at the end, it's very tiring. So it's like, it is exhausting. So take time to rest as well. You got take time, think, regroup, and start again. Yeah.
Totally agree. Treat it as a business, as it's a numbers game. You know, it's a persistence game. Don't treat it as like, I'm going to write this story and it's going to be the best thing since sliced bread and it's going to totally blow up and everyone's going to read it. Like, I am writing this first series knowing that it's the first stepping stone in my backlog. And I think this is true for just in general for indie publishing and self-publishing. The more books you have out there, the more easy it is for you to get discovered, for someone to read one of your books and then see that you have more books. And the more likely that one of your books will blow up and again and bring other people in. But you can't count on just like one series or one book, you know, being the end all be all. You have to write a lot and publish often and have a lot of content for people to discover you.
That's all really, really great advice. And then just as a bonus question, it's out of my curiosity from listening to all of you. Do you guys have a team that you rely on, or are you kind of like solo bolo in this? Because it sounds like there's so many moving parts. And I love the idea of approaching it as a business, because as a new author, I definitely feel like you have to approach writing in general. It's more than just the craft. You have to know the business side of it. So that was like a bonus question I'm throwing to the three of you is, do you have a team that kind of helps you with, like, you're talking about cover art, marketing, posting, editing, revising, and so this. So it's like, Rachanee, do you have a team? And then I'm gonna go around.
Sure. I have a cover artist I love. She's done all the cover art for my series so far. And then I have an editor. So one of the best things I ever did was I co-lead a writers group that's been going now, I think, gosh, close to 10 years. And people have cycled in and out. My co-leader and I were good friends, and he's also my editor. And so just having people that you can bounce ideas off, and because craft is king always, right? So, you know, you need to get really good at craft. And so that's the people on my team. I don't have an agent. I don't have a lawyer. I've taken a lot of social media classes and like marketing. Like I do a lot of research. So everything is hours and hours of research. I would love to pass that on, but I'm also just a little control freak enough that I want to make sure that they do a good job. So still not there yet, but that would be ideal to be like, here, team, I give you the marketing piece.
Awesome. Joyce?
I do not have a team. The team is me. I'm just basically marketing the cover art. I do commission art as well. I do pre-made art as well. I do commission pre-made art. I do my own editing. I do my own writing. I do my own marketing. So it's a one-person show, which is I wish I have a personal assistant to help me schedule stuff, but not now. I mean, just doing my own team thing. It's me. It's just me.
Kia?
Joyce, did you say you do your own covers too?
No, I say I commission covers.
Oh,
But
okay. Yeah,
sometimes
I
for
was
my
really impressed.
no, sometimes for my own other like smaller projects, I do my own covers.
Oh,
Oh,
cool.
Yeah, I do
Nice.
my own covers, yeah. Because I use my own art or my own photography, then I put my name and title of the story. Because I use Canvas, Canvas is a
Yeah,
very good tool to use. So it's quite simple, and then I just do my own basic cover art, and it's yeah, yeah.
that's really cool. Yeah, I commissioned my art. Okay, I do some doodles, very amateur doodles, and I put those just for free on chapters. And with the warning, this is not a like professional art. This is just my interpretation of this character. But they seem to appreciate that. So if you put like little pieces of art or photography and stuff on chapters, people seem to enjoy that. So that's another good thing for marketing. But so my team is really just my critique partners and my editor, I would say. So I've kind of gotten it down to a pattern where I write the first draft, I go back and edit it into something coherent because my first draft is never coherent. And then I send it to my critique partners. And they read through it and they give me feedback on like what I've messed up or what needs more, or what could be cut, or where there was slack in pacing. And they're pretty quick about reading it in just a couple of weeks. Like I don't ask them for any in-depth stuff. Just read it, enjoy it. How'd you feel about it? And then after that, I'll make edits based on what they say. And then I have 5 beta readers that over the years, like I started with just anyone I could grab, like from writing groups. Joyce mentioned it's great to get involved with different writing groups, and I've done a lot of those. And anyone who would be willing to read my book, I'd grab them and pull them in as a beta reader. And kind of over the years, it's been like whittled down until there's like 5 people who will read whatever I write, and they're the beta readers that I always go back to. So then I send it to my beta readers, and they'll usually read it in about a month to a month and a half. And then I'll take their feedback and I'll incorporate that too. And after that, I pretty much consider it done. So I send it off to my editor. I'll do one more read through just to make sure it feels good to me and feels solid. And I catch whatever line edit stuff I can catch. And then my editor, who's also a friend and also someone I met through this writing conference, actually. And then she's the one who I pay to edit my work. And then at that point, it's done,
Right.
and I post it online. Although Royal Road is really good about catching typos. I don't know if you found that, Rachanee, but if you like have one like comma out of place, they will let you know. There's a feature on the site where you can like highlight words and like delete or add letters, and it will show up in the comments as like edit suggestions. So people are really good about anything that potentially was missed. They'll catch that for you.
I'd be scared. I'd be really scared that they'd be like, oh my gosh, she's like the typo queen. Never reading her stuff again.
Right. But can you imagine like if you just put out your first draft, like how many comments I get, like maybe one comment or edit suggestion every 5 chapters or so, like one typo they find every 5 chapters. But if I was putting out my first draft, it would just be like constant
Oh, wait,
every
that
chapter.
that could be a marketing thing though, because like I don't get a lot of comments, but maybe if I put up something riddled with typos and
They'll go looking
errors, I'll
for
get
it.
more comments on my stuff.
I love that idea. So I guess my team really is just my critique partners, beta readers, my editor, and I've used a couple different cover artists. I'm still trying to find one that like I want to be my go-to. It can be hard too because like if you want a fast turnaround, they might not have time for you. So it's good to have a couple different potential cover artists, you know, who you can go to if you know they don't fit in your schedule. But so still working on narrowing down a cover artist. But yeah, it would be great to have like a dedicated person to like post all my chapters and do social media for me because that's the stuff I don't want to do, but I can't afford a personal assistant.
That's really good. Yeah. For me, it's that would be my daughter, right? She's like my social, I always call her my social media
Nice.
manager. So when we first started WriteHive, I with Discord, any tech questions, I'm like, how do I do this? How do I do that? I don't understand any of this. And she's like, Mom, you gotta go and you gotta change these channels and you gotta add yourself in these servers. I'm like, I don't understand any of it. So but it's that's really cool that it's good to know that you do have some type of support team. So the functioning parts of it, it's still you. But I think it's important to let readers know that it's just me, you know. I'm sitting here and I do have this kind of group. So it's like I'm pouring my heart and soul onto these pages for you guys to read. So, and I hope that people like enjoy it and find happiness and follow me on other things and send me those coffee cups and join my Patreon. So as we're running out of time, I want to give you guys opportunities to kind of tell us what you're working on, where can we find you, promo where we need to go, list all that stuff. So Kia, why don't you start and then I'm going to go around on the screen.
Well, as I mentioned before, right now I am currently just on Royal Road and Scribble Hub, and you can find me by Kia Leep on both of those, or you can look up the name of my series, which is Glass Cannon. And actually, Glass Cannon is a pun. It's not like the trope it's Cannon is Kanin. It's the name of the main character because he gets turned into glass.
Ah, Joyce?
Well, at the moment, I'm trying to self-publish a young adult fiction set in a novel I wrote in. It's under Scholastics Asia, so it's I'm trying to self-pub that as well. So it's like trying to get beta readers and cover art, etc., etc. So those I'm not sure if I will serialize that fiction. I might just post it straight to Amazon. But so this is what I'm working on. But I'm also working on setting up my own. It's a kind of Southeast Asian sci-fi in print set for Southeast Asian writers in Southeast Asia. So I'm bogged down in planning at the moment,
Right.
logistics. That's my main project now. So yes, wish me luck for giant oarfish. It's called giant oarfish. I love oarfish. So thank you.
Awesome. Rashidi?
Sure. Whoops, this way. Air of Amber and Fire is currently on Royal Road and Scribble Hub, and book 5 in the series. So that was book 1. Book 5 is coming out April 23rd. I'm hoping to have book 6 out by the end of the year. You can read the whole series on Amazon, Kobo, Barnes and Noble, all those places. I'm not sure if I'm going to do the entire series on the serialized, but for sure number 1 and maybe a little teaser for number 2.
Great. Well, thank you guys so much. This has been such an enlightening panel, and I hope all of our attendees will feel the same way. So we'll make sure that we'll drop all of your socials inside the chats. If people have questions, be sure to check out all of their stories, and I hope you guys enjoy the rest of the conference. Thank you so much, you guys. Take care.